Yo, 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 yo. Welcome to another episode of the X Factor Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Jay Mundane. We are in season 6, episode 3. Appreciate y'all for tuning in tonight. We got a great show. You can catch us every Wednesday on YouTube and Rumble. You can also catch the audio on all the platforms that allow you to listen to podcasts like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, all the places to listen to podcasts. All right. Like I said for y'all, we got a great show. I'm not going to hold y'all any longer. We're going to get right to it. So let's go ahead and get into these layup lines. And in the layup lines, we're going to talk about basically what we've learned so far from all these sports over the last week, kind of a weekend review, right? All right. So from the NBA, what we learned is the Bucks are in trouble. All right. Starting off 1-6. Giannis missed a game the other day. Dame had a bad game. Doc Rivers don't look any better, looks worse than Adrian Griffin, I should say, from last season. And let's be honest, if they don't get their stuff together, Giannis is going to want out, and he's going to want out before the trade deadline. So it's already been rumored over the last couple of years that he likes Golden State. He would like being in Chicago because he don't got to move that far away. He probably don't have to move at all. So Bucks need to get it together, but that's something we see so far as a 1-6 start. They're supposed to be a championship team. And you might see Giannis probably holding a picture of Drew Holiday somewhere in the corner crying because I'm sure he miss him now. Now that Drew Holiday don't want another championship, looking to go back-to-back in Boston. Also, what we learned is the Cleveland Cavaliers and the OKC Thunder are looking real good. They look for real. I know it's the first week of the season. We're less than 10 games in, but the way these teams look, Cleveland's undefeated. I think OKC is still undefeated, and they look really good. Shea is looking to get an MVP. Look like somebody owed him something from last season because he playing like Debo right now. He coming for somebody chained. So they look good. Also, surprisingly, the Golden State Warriors look really good. They look deeper than we thought. Now, Steve Kerr made this statement last week, I think after like game 1 or 2, and was like, we're actually deeper than we've ever been, which is crazy to think because they had a dynasty. Andre Iguodala, Sean Livingston, all those guys kind of started out. David West, these were guys that were on the bench, right? To say now you feel like this is the deepest team, he's having trouble with a starting rotation. They kind of, I won't agree with him. It's his team. He would know better than me. But looking at it, I mean, Steph missed a couple games because of the ankle. He came back on Tuesday night or Monday night. But looking at it, I mean, they didn't miss a beat. Buddy Hield is in. He's fitting in seamlessly to replace Clay. I think he averaging almost 19 a game. He's shooting a great percentage from 3. They look good. I mean, the young guys look good. Kuminga's starting to get more looks. So Buddy Hield is just fitting seamlessly, more seamless than I thought he would this early. So maybe they got something going. So that's what we learned from there. What else? Utah is in the Cooper Flag sweepstakes. For those of you who don't know who I'm talking about, Cooper Flag is probably going to be the number 1 pick in the draft. He's a freshman at Duke right now, and Utah ain't won a game yet. So that tells me they in the Cooper Flag sweepstakes, along with other teams, but they look real bad. At least Detroit don't look that great. They beat the Lakers the other night. They're going to play hard for J.B. Bickerstaff. Utah just look like they punted the season already. They look like they punted the season, and it ain't even November 10th yet. So, also, what's up with Joel Embiid? Right? Well, number 1, we learned don't talk about Joel Embiid family. All right? Because if you do, you're getting pushed out the way. So a reporter, a beat writer, I think, for the 76ers, made a comment about Joel Embiid's late brother and also made a comment about his son. Joel Embiid took exception to it, as anybody would, pushed the columnist, but then he ended up getting suspended for 3 games on Tuesday. And the first thing when I saw that, I thought of Friday, like how you get fired on your day off. This dude ain't played a game yet, all right? Joel Embiid getting suspended for games while he on PTO. So how does that happen? How do you get suspended without pay and you ain't played the game yet. So we learned that. All right. In Major League Baseball, because the Dodgers won the World Series while we were airing the show last Wednesday, we can talk about this in the layup lines and some quick news. So as you already know, Dodgers won the World Series, won 4-1 gentleman's sweep, beat the Yankees in New York. Freddie Freeman was the MVP. Every time he got up to the plate, it was like he could possibly hit a home run. He damn near did every time. The Yankees just looked bad. A lot of glaring mistakes they had all season kind of showed up in the World Series. The bad fielding, the bad base running, like some fundamental things that the Dodgers exploited. And right after that, Juan Soto let everybody know he was open for business. All right. Not even 10 minutes after they lose a World Series, he's like, I'm not shutting the door on any team. I'm available for all 32 teams. So what did we learn from that? All right. The crazy thing about this is the Dodgers could mess around and get Juan Soto. He's one of the best players in baseball. He's only 26 years old. But think about how crazy this is. The Dodgers won the World Series and they weren't even at full strength. All right. Clayton Kershaw didn't pitch in the playoffs. Had a bruised toe or something like that. He's going to come back healthy. Shohei Ohtani messed up his shoulder in the World Series, so he couldn't really bat that well. And he didn't pitch at all this season. Instead, he said, I'm going to just hit 50 home runs and steal 50 bases. He didn't even do what his biggest strength is this season, and they won the World Series. So he will be back healthy to pitch next season. So now you got Kershaw back, you got Ohtani back. Those will be your aces in that starting pitching rotation that they said was probably an issue. Ended up winning the World Series in 5 games. Clayton Kershaw also opted out of his contract. So what that means is he's going to be a free agent. He's going to re-sign. But think about the chess moves they're making. He's going to restructure his contract probably if he's opting back in. That's usually what happens when a player opts out of a contract and becomes a quote-unquote free agent. They restructure the deal, so he's staying in LA, but he's probably going to backload that contract for guess who? They're going to have money for Juan Soto possibly to get him on the books. Doing the same thing that Mr. $700 million did, Shohei Ohtani. He's got a 10-year, $700 million contract, right? But it's backloaded for probably when he's done playing. It's 10-year or 20-year. It's something crazy because he'll be retired, still getting money. But he's not getting majority of that money in the beginning. So they can make moves like this. Mookie Betts can get paid. Freddie Freeman can stay. Now they'll have room for a Juan Soto to add to this devastating lineup that they already got, right? And he'll replace probably Ohtani because Ohtani won't DH because he'll probably be back to pitching. So they'll do that, right? And that can make this the beginning of a dynasty. When you think about what they already have and what they've won with, and now they have the opportunity to add Juan Soto to this lineup with a healthy Kershaw and a healthier Ohtani that can pitch. It's going to be crazy. So look into that in the months to come. Obviously, they got winter and spring training and all that. But don't be surprised if the Dodgers are talking to Juan Soto about joining their team and being part of this dynasty. So, all right. And then NFL. Also, last thing we got on here for the quick news is what we learned from week 9. All right. We're halfway through the NFL season. The Lions are the best team in the NFL. I don't care what nobody say about the Chiefs being undefeated, yada, yada, yada. The Lions are playing the best football. Jared Goff is the MVP. He's playing perfect football. And not even in the sense of statistics. Having a perfect passer rate and all that. He's completing over 80% of his passes in this win streak. Probably 75% for the season. But he's doing all the things he needs to do for them to win. He doesn't turn the ball over. It's crazy to think that they just played their first outdoor game in week 9 against Green Bay. And they ended up performing exactly how they needed to and winning that game. So Lions are the best team in football. Jared Goff is my MVP right now. What else we learned in week 9? Oh, the Giants missed Saquon Barkley. because clearly he's an acrobat and a gymnast part-time, how he leaps over everybody. And they're winning games, the Eagles that is, because of Saquon Barkley. And the Giants are playing tough and losing close games, and they probably could have used a good running back to kind of stabilize that offense. The Cowboys are done, and even Dak Prescott told y'all they were. If you read his lips over there, telling y'all that they effing suck, he's letting you know that they're done, right? That's Jerry Jones going all in for y'all. And the Eagles, kind of stepping back to that, they are starting to look more and more legit. I know y'all might say, okay, they beating the lesser teams, but you have to win these games. If they was losing these games, y'all be calling them Dallas, right? But they're winning these games. You can only beat who's on your schedule. So, and they taking care of business. But they're starting to get a winning streak going, and they're starting to get healthy at the same time. That defense is starting to get healthy. Offensive line starting to figuring it out. Life without Jason Kelce. So they look really good. So you got to give them props where it's due. And then we got the bad side. Teams are starting to quit on their coaches. You see Dennis Allen got fired again, messing around with Derek Carr. This is what happens. Derek Carr got him fired when they were in Oakland for the Raiders, before they even moved to Vegas. He got Dennis Allen fired. Now they reunite, makeups to breakups. Dennis Allen gets fired again in New Orleans. After starting out winning 2 straight, they've lost every other game since, and now they fired him. So feel bad for Alvin Kamara because he just re-signed a deal, but hopefully they get somebody down there for him. And then coaches are losing the locker room, which is going to have me segue into this. We already know where I'm going with this in terms of losing the locker room. Have the Bears quit on Matt Eberflus? Okay, let's look at all the evidence, and then y'all tell me what y'all think. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. We are on YouTube and Rumble every week and all the audio platforms. But y'all let me know what y'all think. You can also follow on all the social media platforms as well. I know y'all check out the reels, clips of every episode. Have the Bears quit on Matt Eberflus? Let's look at the evidence. Okay, I already said the Bears aren't going to make the playoffs at the beginning of the year. It wasn't necessarily because of Eberflus. It was because it's a rookie quarterback. Expectations were too high. And I knew the NFC was going to be better. What I said was, if the Bears win 9 games this year, it'll be a successful season. And they don't even look like they're going to get to that. The front part of the season, halfway through, were the easy games. The Bears haven't played a divisional game yet. And they're in the best division in football, because the other 3 teams in our division are in the playoffs as we sit today. The Green Bay Packers are a 7 seed with 2 or 3 losses. I think they 6-3. So the Bears is looking real grim getting in the playoffs, but it's also looking grim to get 9 wins, to go 9-8. But that's what I would say is a successful season for them now. So we might need a prayer and a miracle to get the 9 wins. I don't think it's happening, but let's see what happens with these divisional games. But here's the thing about Matt Eberflus. The Bears have never fired a coach mid-season because they just don't want to pay for 2 coaches, right? The Bears are cheap like that, and they don't make these knee-jerk reactions. So I don't think he's going to get fired. So where does that leave us? He's absolutely lost the locker room, right? The team quit on him last Sunday. So this is what happened. Let's go back 2 weeks ago in the Washington game, okay? Everybody knows what happened with the Hail Mary, yada, yada, yada. Bears lost. But before all of that, it was already an ugly game. The offense couldn't move on both sides of the ball. It was a great defensive battle, whatever you want to call it. The Bears finally get a good drive. And what do? They bring in a backup offensive lineman at the goal line during the 4-minute drill in the fourth quarter to go for a touchdown. When DeAndre Swift, you have who's getting 100 yards of total offense week after week after week. You come out of a bye week not prepared to play, and we get to the goal line, and the play y'all draw up is to get the ball to a backup offensive lineman to get in the end zone. And of course it doesn't work. Not only did it not work, he fumbled. So now Washington gets the ball. We get a second chance. Our defense saves us again. We get a second chance. We get the touchdown. We take the lead. Okay. Washington doesn't have very much time left. You would think that we would have, like most teams, good teams, there's a 2-minute drill offense. There's probably a 2-minute drill defense. Mind you, Matt Eberflus is a defensive head coach. All right, let's not forget that. So let's get to the two plays. So the play before the Hail Mary, Washington's 80 yards, 75 yards away from the end zone. We're in this dumb prevent defense, 80 yards away, instead of having our defense play normal and force everything to the middle of the field so they run out of time. We don't do that. Okay, so they get a catch and get to go out of bounds. Just a free play. And oh, by the way, let's put a spy. Let's rush 3 and have a spy on Jaden Daniels. He's not going to scramble for 80 yards to get a touchdown. Why are we doing a quarterback spy? So that happens. Then the last play, the Hail Mary, Rashawn Stevenson is egging on the fans, jumping up and down like the game's over. Literally while people were running behind him, coming up the field for this Hail Mary. So we're not prepared there either. We still got this spy on Jaden Daniels thinking he's going to scramble for 70 yards now. And then nobody's in position to get this Hail Mary. The Bears lose. Fast forward, after that loss, we get to Arizona. You would think after a loss like that, a coach would have his team ready to play. Not only were they not ready to play, the Bears gave up more points than they have all season in a game in the first half to Arizona, giving up 21 points. And then giving up the longest touchdown run to close out a half in over 100 years. Just making history left and right the bad way, right? This team was not prepared to play against Arizona after that loss. And I told my guys, I said, we're going to find out if Matt Eberflus lost this locker room. And the first half showed us he did. He absolutely lost this locker room. Now, if you're Ryan Poles, you're stuck. This isn't your guy. You didn't hire him. You didn't hire his staff. So what do you do now? If you let him go, do we trust Shane Waldron, the offensive coordinator? No. Do we trust Eric Washington, the defensive coordinator? No. So you have nobody to replace this dude with. So we got to sit and watch the next half of this season with him, with a team that doesn't want to play for him anymore. Literally that was a game where we literally watched a coach lose a locker room in real time. That's what just happened. So again, where do we go from here? The Bears aren't going to win too many more games the rest of the season. They might have a good shot to beat New England at home on Sunday. They play well at home. They play terrible on the road. But then the division games start. So we got 6 of those that we haven't played yet. We still got to see the best team in the NFL and the Detroit Lions twice. We see them on Thanksgiving. You got Minnesota twice, and then obviously Green Bay twice. So those aren't looking like good. Those aren't looking like wins. You got some games in between there that don't look like wins either. I think we got the Rams in between there somewhere. So it just doesn't look good. So we got to sit and bear this again for another year. And I think once the season's over, Ryan Poles has to make this his absolute top priority to go get Ben Johnson from the Detroit Lions. The offensive coordinator, he is probably going to be the most sought out person to get a head coaching job next season. You need an offensive coach before you lose Caleb Williams. All these weapons we have. He's all but said he wants to coach there. He's familiar with the division. So just go ahead and get Ben Johnson, pay him what you need to pay him, and get him to coach the Bears. Or if you can't get Ben Johnson for some reason, why not get the coach that coached Caleb Williams at USC in Cliff Kingsbury? Cliff Kingsbury is in Washington now. He's the offensive coordinator. For Jaden Daniels, the kid that's probably going to win Offensive Rookie of the Year, yeah, Go get Cliff Kingsbury. He's already got coaching experience. He coached Kyler Murray in Arizona, the team we lost to last week. Funny how these things work, right? This ironic circle of football. Go get Cliff Kingsbury as the consolation if you can't get Ben Johnson. Caleb's familiar with Cliff Kingsbury. Cliff Kingsbury has experience as an NFL head coach. Sometimes when coaches fail the first time, they usually come back more humble, a little bit better the second time around. So we can say that's an opportunity as well. The point I'm making is getting these defensive coaches in this offensive era of football is over. All right. If you ain't Mike Tomlin, or if you ain't John Harbaugh, I really don't want you as a coach, to be honest. I mean, they have probably the longest tenure as coaches, and everybody else that has success in this league are offensive head coaches, and that's what I want for Caleb Williams. So that's what they need to do. So we can go get Ben Johnson and have an opportunity to make it to the playoffs next year, but I absolutely think that Matt Eberflus lost his team. He lost the locker room. Players are unsure about his leadership, and hopefully they play with some pride this weekend, but I think the writing was on the wall last week after we saw that. All right, so y'all let me know what y'all think. Did Matt Eberflus lose the locker room, and where do we go from here? All right, so let's switch gears. We're going to get into college basketball, NCAA. College basketball is back, and I know this is the first week of games, so don't really seem like a big deal, but we do got some gems coming up this weekend. We got KU at UNC. We got Louisville and Tennessee. That's always a good matchup. We got Baylor, who just got smacked by Gonzaga. I think they're going to be pissed off. Play against Arkansas. Arkansas, sneaky good. They actually beat KU in an exhibition game. Then you got Auburn and Houston, two ranked teams. I think that's going to be a good game this weekend too. So with that being said, though, I've always said that I think college basketball rankings should wait until Christmas. Now, I'm not naive. I know that won't ever happen. Obviously, for TV ratings, you got, unranked teams playing ranked teams. You got, spoiler alert, upset alerts. You got all these things, right? Two ranked teams playing against each other. It's great for business. I get it. But just bear with me for a second. Think about this. If college basketball didn't reveal rankings until Christmas, so you know how in football they do the college football rankings, right? The college football playoffs, and they make a big spectacle of it, make a TV show out of it. Why don't they do that for college basketball? So on Christmas, just go ahead and make it a show. Everybody knows it's leading up to it. And on Christmas morning, just do the college basketball rankings. Think about it from this point of view. How hard will these teams start playing if they have no idea where they're going to be ranked? And they got to play for 7 weeks before they see the rankings. I think that makes the games more compelling from a competitive standpoint, right? So it makes for better games. Maybe TV and ratings, maybe, the lure of the ranked team, the number one team playing. But we all know by now who the Blue Bloods are and who the teams are good. We know the KUs, the Dukes, Kentuckys, North Carolinas, Gonzagas. We know these teams are good, right? So putting a number next to their name ain't going to change us from wanting to see them play. What it will do, though, is I think it makes them play even harder. I think it makes the non-ranked teams play harder. Think about this. Next week, you got the Champions Classic. Duke plays against Kentucky. They're both ranked. Michigan State and KU's ranked number 1 right now, and they play against Michigan State. Michigan State's not ranked. But the name Michigan State holds a lot of weight. It's one of those top-tier programs. Tom Izzo, and you got KU as well, right, with Bill Self. Now, if there are no rankings on the table, that game matters because you want to be ranked as high as you can by the time you get to Christmas, right? Everybody is going to be trying to be the number 1 team in the nation, as opposed to just being ranked and being happy you're nationally ranked. If there's no rankings, Everybody is going to be wanting to be the number one team. So the games are going to be way more competitive, right? Now we're talking about strength of schedule really matter. We're talking about winning streaks mattering. All these things matter more. Now that we know KU's ranked number one, it's not going to be a really big black mark on Michigan State if they lose this game. They're expected to lose because they're playing the number one team in the nation. But if you strip away those rankings, now you just got Kansas versus Michigan State. That game is big for both because Kansas don't want to lose to nobody because they want to be ranked number one. Michigan State, they may be a team that's building, but they understand this is a big game. And if we win, we don't know where that will put us. We don't know where everybody else is in the country. We're solely focusing on ourselves. And then also what it does for the kids, right? The players. This keeps the players out of the newspaper, off social media. I'm dating myself saying newspaper, but it takes the players out of the mindset of thinking about, oh man, are we ranked this week? Where are we at? Who do we need to beat? Are we higher than Duke? Are we higher than Carolina? It takes all the speculation out because you ain't gonna know till Christmas. So just go out there and play. It adds an extra layer of something for the coaches to speak to when they're in practice. Players can keep their mind off of these rankings. Also, Christmas is after the first semester of school. You give these kids a full semester of schooling, a full semester of basketball, play your non-conference schedule, sprinkle a couple of conference games in there. If you're in a bigger conference, the Big Ten, those games tend to start earlier. But think about if you can eliminate all of the what ifs and just let these dudes play ball. And then when Christmas comes, now think of how valuable these games are going to be because now we're at Christmas and you got the top 25 rankings revealed. How many more weeks do you have before March to get to where you need to be in the tournament or to be in that large bid? That's what I think will be exciting. Not saying that the first half of the season doesn't matter, but just think about it. You know, I'm kind of thinking outside of the box. Hopefully y'all are following with me. But think if there was no rankings, if you watch these college basketball games and there were no numbers next to these names, but you still knew the universities and they just played ball. The speculation of, man, I wonder where KU is going to be ranked on Christmas Day. Man, I wonder where Duke's going to be ranked on Christmas Day. They lost this game, but they won 5 straight. They beat so-and-so. Think about the buildup that we would have going into Christmas by revealing college basketball rankings. So let me know what y'all think about that. I think that'd be a cool idea to try. Y'all let me kind of have some fun with that. I appreciate it, but let me know if y'all think that'd be a good idea. All right. So off the college basketball, like I said, it's pretty quick. They're just getting started. So we're going to step back into the NFL. We're midway through the season. So we're going to get into our Week 10 X Factors. We haven't done this in a while. This is the first time in Season 6 we've done it. But let's get back to it. The X Factors, we picked 5 games from Week 10. And I tell you who I think are going to be the X Factors in these games. It doesn't necessarily mean these teams will win, but I think these players or these units or whatever on the field will make an impact in the game. So if you're a fantasy football player, go ahead and take some notes. All right. In the first game, Buffalo goes to Indianapolis to play the Colts. It's indoors. It is a game where the Bills should win. They're riding high. They just added Amari Cooper, but he's questionable. I think Shakur, the other wide receiver, is questionable too. So I'm saying James Cook, running back for the Bills, will be the X factor in this game. All right. The Indianapolis Colts, they give up 150 yards on the ground. All right. Like I said, you got the Bills playing in a dome. I think the running game is going to be prolific. You might even get a Josh Allen rushing touchdown, but I think James Cook will be the guy, especially with receivers on the outside being questionable, not 100%. Offense will definitely go through James Cook. I see at least 2 touchdowns, 1 rushing, 1 receiving touchdown for James Cook. In the second game, the Broncos versus the Chiefs. All right. The Chiefs just had a crazy game on Monday night. late game, overtime, extra minutes. Patrick Mahomes got a little shaken up with the ankle. I'm going with the Broncos defense to be the X factor in this game. All right. They got embarrassed last week by the Ravens, 41-10. It's a divisional game. Divisional games are always tough. The Chiefs have a quick turnaround. They played the last game of week 9. They're playing essentially in the first game of week 10. They're playing a noon game. The Chiefs do not play noon games very often. If you've been following football the last few years, they've been a primetime team. They usually play Thursday nights, Sunday nights, Monday nights, mainly 3:15 games because they're in the AFC West. So it's crazy that an AFC West game is at noon, even though it's in Kansas City. This feels like a trap game to me, but I'm going to go with the Broncos defense. They are third in points given up, even after that 41-10 beatdown. They're still third in points given up. The Chiefs' offensive line looked shaky on Monday night. I don't know if y'all watched that, but the Bucs defense kind of ran through them a little bit. Patrick Mahomes got sacked 4 or 5 times. I think the Broncos may have seen something in that game. They usually play the Chiefs tough. Vance Joseph has been known to play the Chiefs tough. And their defensive line against that offensive line that looked shaky, that offensive line again coming off of not very much rest, having to play a noon game, which is unfamiliar. I think the Broncos are going to get a pick, and they're going to get about 4 sacks as well in this game. So I'm going with the Broncos defense. Again, I don't know who's going to win, but this just smells like trap game to me. Remember, the Chiefs don't play on noon games very often. They had the last game of last week, first game of this week, divisional game. One team just got embarrassed. It is the NFL. They want to make a statement. I think the defense shows up for the Broncos. Third game, we got the Niners and the Bucs. Same thing with the Bucs. They just came off of a tough loss in bad weather, have to travel back to Florida. They're playing a noon game as well. Even though the Niners are traveling across country, they are coming off a bye. And the Niners are going to get healthier. There's even rumblings that Christian McCaffrey might play. I don't think he will. I personally think he's done for the year. Don't want to mess around with no Achilles. But Deebo Samuel will be back, and George Kittle gets another week to get healthy. So I'm going with Brock Purdy. I think Brock Purdy's the X factor in this game. Like the Chiefs, like I said, the Bucs are coming off that Monday night game. The Niners coming off the bye. You got healthy players. The Bucs give up 27 points a game. So all this talk about Mahomes wasn't playing that good on offense. They kind of woke up. I mean, it helps when you got DeAndre Hopkins, when you can detonate the nuke. But the Niners have weapons all over the place. So I think Brock Purdy has a good game. I see Brock Purdy throwing 3 touchdowns. However way he's going to get it, I think he will. And I think the Niners get this one too out in Florida. And Brock Purdy plays great off of buys. In the fourth game, Steelers and Commanders. So we got another team coming off a bye in the Pittsburgh Steelers. Even though Russell Wilson is rounding into form, another bye week obviously helps him get better. I actually think TJ Watt is the one that'll be the X factor in this game because of the defense. The defense only gives up 14 points a game. This is going to be the toughest defense the Commanders and Jaden Daniels, a rookie quarterback, has played against. Mike Tomlin has a great record against rookie quarterbacks. I think TJ Watt has a great game. This will be a TJ Watt game. I think 10 solo tackles and 1.5 sacks for TJ Watt going into Washington. And then last but not least, for the X factors, in week 10, we got Lions going to Houston. It's crazy. Whoever made this schedule for the Lions, they don't play outside. They're at another dome, another indoor game. That one outdoor game they had against Green Bay I talked about earlier in the show. They're right back into a dome. And then obviously half of the games are in a dome anyway because they're in Detroit. But this will be a sneaky good game because the Lions are 4-0 on the road, but the Texans are 4-0 at home. All right? So don't let the records fool you. Both teams play well where they're positioned. It's going to be hard for the Texans. No Nico Collins. And you got they lost another wide receiver. And so they're going to be Stephon Diggs. So they're going to be struggling with the outside. I think Jahmyr Gibbs, running back for the Lions, has a good game. Texans have a decent D-line, but the Lions have the best offensive line in football. I think they impose their will. They're going to neutralize this defensive line. I think Jahmyr Gibbs have a great game. The Lions are just starting to push their way through every team they play. It doesn't matter the elements. It doesn't matter what defenses throw at them. And Jared Goff is playing perfect football. I think they do everything they need to do to win. It helps when you have a tough coach in Dan Campbell. The team is taking on his personality, and it usually starts in the trenches. And with the Lions having the best offensive line, I see Jahmyr Gibbs having a great game indoors. Jahmyr Gibbs gets 100 yards of total offense, and he also gets 1 rushing touchdown, 1 receiving touchdown. All right? So I'm going to run through the 5 X factors that we had to end this segment off. James Cook for the Bills will have a great game. I think the Broncos defense, this is a potential trap game. I like the Broncos defense coming back and showing some fight this week. You got Brock Purdy coming off a bye week with some healthy weapons. TJ Watt also coming off a bye, facing a rookie quarterback. And then I got Jahmyr Gibbs running all over the place in Texas. So y'all can use those X factors if you want. Use them to bet with, prop bets. Use them in fantasy football if you got any of these guys. Unfortunately, I have none of them. But I think it's going to be a good week of football with those 5. All right? Before we get up out of here, okay, we always end it with the 2-minute warning. So this is one from personal experience that I wanted to touch on, and it's showing up for people. So over this past weekend, it was some highs and lows. Rest in peace to Joanne Clark. My little brother lost his mom, like I told you on week 1. Rest in peace to her. So they had her service over last weekend. And then the next day, a friend of mine celebrated a birthday. So you show up for that. And then some friends of ours we knew were doing a Day of the Dead performance. You show up for that. So I say showing up for people is what I want to talk about, because that's typically what people want to see when you show that you care or love them, right? It's not always about giving money or donating stuff or, even just anything. If you can give something to somebody, some monetary, right? It's time. When you can show that you care about people and when you can show up for them when they need you, I think that shows more of an appreciation for them, a love for them. So try to think about that as you move on. Like, are you showing up for people when they need you to? Are people showing up for you? It's got to be both ways, right? So just be conscious of that. I think one of the biggest compliments somebody gave me was that they liked that I showed up for people. And I do that. That's an intentional thing that I try to do. I try to do what I say I'm going to do. If I can be at places or if I can provide, I try to follow through with that. That's the way I was raised. That's the way I was taught. So I try to carry that on, and hopefully people can see that example. But try to be there for people if you can. Try to show up. I think that's more important than anything monetary you can give to somebody, is to show up when they need it. All right? So this is Jay Mundane of the X Factor Sports Podcast, Season 6, Episode 3. Thank you guys for tuning in. Again, you can always get the merchandise. Go to the website. You can always check us out, xfactorstores.com, xfactorsportstores.com. You can always get the gear, all colors and sizes of the shirts, also the hats, and you can scan that QR code at the bottom of the screen. Next week in episode 4, we got a great show for you guys. We're going to put a lot more basketball into it since we're getting deeper into the NBA season. We're a couple weeks in, and then college basketball is starting. We want to touch base on where that's at on the men's and women's side. This is Jay Mundane of the X Factor Sports Podcast signing out. Peace.